He promised a player he didn't own, used that promise to win an election he was supposed to lose, and forced one of football's biggest stars into the most hated transfer in history. There were no fraud charges, no punishment, only applause. This is the true story of how Florentino Pérez won Real Madrid's presidency by turning an election into a financial trap, and why, to this day, many still call it genius. Madrid, summer 2000. The heat clings to the city, settling into cafes, offices, and radio studios where the same conversation keeps repeating itself. Everything already feels decided. Lorenzo Sanz is the sitting president of Real Madrid. His resume speaks for him. 2 Champions League trophies in 3 seasons. In football, achievements like that don't just bring admiration. They bring protection. People don't debate whether he should stay. They assume he will. You don't vote out a winner. That sentence floats everywhere, unchallenged. The socios, the club's voting members, are not preparing for a real decision. They're preparing for confirmation. This election feels less like a contest and more like a formality. Florentino Pérez understands this atmosphere immediately. He doesn't try to fight it. He doesn't attack Sanz's legacy or question the trophies. While others relive the past, Pérez watches the present. He studies the room. Who looks comfortable? Who looks bored? Who believes nothing can go wrong? And quietly, he reaches a conclusion most candidates never do. You don't beat an unbeatable man by competing on his terms. You beat him by changing the rules of the game itself. This meeting never appears in the press. There are no journalists waiting outside, no cameras set up in the hallway, no club officials observing from a distance. What happens here is meant to stay invisible. Inside, it's just a quiet room in Madrid, a table separating 2 sides, and a set of documents that will never be shown to the public. Across from Florentino Pérez sits the agent of Luís Figo. At that moment, Figo is untouchable. He is Barcelona's captain, a symbol of loyalty, publicly dismissive of Real Madrid. The idea of him wearing white feels almost offensive. That's why Pérez doesn't sell this as a transfer. He presents it as a structure, a pre-contract. Its logic is simple, almost elegant. If Florentino Pérez wins the presidential election, Real Madrid agrees to pay Luís Figo's release clause in full, 60 million euros, a world record transfer. If Pérez loses the election, nothing happens. Figo stays at Barcelona. Life goes on. Then, attention drifts to a clause that doesn't feel urgent at first, a penalty clause, buried beneath assumptions. If Figo signs this agreement and later refuses to move after Pérez wins, he must pay 30 million euros. 30 million, real money, immediately enforceable. From Figo's camp, the risk feels minimal. Everyone expects Pérez to lose. Lorenzo Sanz has Champions Leagues. The polls look decisive. This agreement feels like a harmless side bet, a contract that will never truly activate. What they don't notice is what Pérez sees instantly. That penalty isn't just leverage, it's capital. Enough money to refund Real Madrid socios if a public promise needs to be honored. This contract isn't really about Figo. It's about guaranteeing an outcome. Once the papers are signed, Pérez doesn't rush to the spotlight. He waits. Cameras roll lazily, expecting safe answers. Then Florentino Pérez says the name, Luís Figo. There's laughter in the room. Not nervous laughter, genuine disbelief. The idea sounds absurd. Figo's camp isn't concerned. This agreement was never meant to be public. It was leverage, not spectacle. A quiet pressure point. Then Pérez continues. He announces that if he is not elected, every socio of Real Madrid will have their membership refunded. The shift is immediate. The room freezes, not because of emotion, but because of calculation. This sentence was never anticipated. It was never discussed with Figo's camp. It was never priced into the contract. In a single moment, everything changes. The agreement is no longer private. It is public, measurable, and irreversible. For the socios, the logic is obvious. Best case, Real Madrid signs Barcelona's captain. Worst case, they lose nothing. There is no downside. This is no longer an emotional vote. It's a risk-free position. Phones start ringing behind the scenes. Lawyers call agents. Barcelona executives scramble to understand what just happened. Figo's agent realizes the mistake too late. By going public, Florentino Pérez has eliminated every quiet exit. This is no longer a gamble. It's a trap, in front of everyone. July 16th, 2000. From the beginning, the atmosphere feels wrong. Too quiet, too tense. As the early counts come in, it's already closer than anyone expected. Lorenzo Sanz continues to smile. Florentino Pérez remains still. He isn't watching faces or reactions. He's watching procedures, mail-in votes, verification steps, timelines. This no longer feels like a campaign being decided. It feels like a contract approaching settlement. When the final count arrives, there is no eruption, no roar, just realization. Florentino Pérez has won. Not through charisma, not through nostalgia, through structure. The panic begins almost immediately. Figo's camp scrambles as reality sets in. What was supposed to be impossible is now binding. The contract is valid. The penalty clause is enforceable. If Figo refuses to move now, it will cost him 30 million euros. Staying at Barcelona suddenly comes with a price tag that could define his career. Emergency meetings follow, calls to lawyers, attempts to renegotiate terms that no longer bend. But the contract is airtight. Florentino Pérez doesn't threaten. He doesn't negotiate. He waits, because the math is already working for him. Days later, Real Madrid executes the clause. The 60 million euro release fee is paid in full. Figo doesn't move because of ambition. He moves because every other option is worse. When he returns to Camp Nou wearing white, the reaction is violent. Coins fly. Insults rain down. A pig's head lands on the pitch. History remembers betrayal. But betrayal implies choice. This wasn't a choice. It was compulsion. For Florentino Pérez, the operation works perfectly. One transfer instantly validates his presidency. Attention explodes. Sponsors notice. What began as a single signing becomes a system. Zidane, Ronaldo, Beckham. Not just footballers, but global assets. Real Madrid stops behaving like a traditional club. It becomes a global institution, engineered for scale. Merchandising multiplies. Broadcasting revenue explodes. Brand dominance follows. And it all traces back to one moment. A private contract, a public promise, and a penalty clause no one took seriously enough.